give.
Yes.
As related to your first question, the date of the film is 1694, the end of the English Baroque, when everybody's behaving like statues. So let's reverse that and get the statues to behave like human beings. All right? Neat explanation?
Well, I think everybody already thanks me for 2 questions, so that's gonna be...
No problem.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Grinway, for coming to Ukraine. And I have a few questions, but I just want to ask the first one because I knew that you have this kind of lecture for a long period of time. I think a lot of stuff you changed in this kind of material, but I must say that you never mentioned one word that became a very big one from that time. It's Netflix. How do you relate yourself to Netflix and opportunities that they...
Boring. What a silly question. Let's talk about something much more interesting. Netflix is just normal cinema organized by people who want to make lots of money. It's doing nothing. The vocabulary, grammar, and syntax has not changed.
But I mean, they propose you to choose some kind of script that the story will go.
Well, you know, I'm anti-script, I'm anti-writers.
Yeah.
I very much want to perform like a painter. And a painter, of course, is not following some notion, indeed, of words. And you can see in all these experiments, and they're all, as I said in the prologue, a bit non-definitive. They're all experimental. And there are also ways in which all these experiments feed into other experiments. And of course, you know, I'm surrounded by, you know, there's a phrase in English, very difficult to teach an old dog new tricks. I'm surrounded by very young people who are really enthusiastic about the new languages, and they will come to me and say, hey, look, I've discovered this, why don't you use this? And of course, I would rush to be able to utilize these extraordinary new tools, which, as I said, are virtually happening every afternoon now, in order to expand and expand and expand the boring, rather sort of, you know, essentially still celluloid-based way in which we make cinema. Vast opportunities of great excitement. But I think, you know, we shouldn't follow the notion of narrativity and text. We should really go very, very fast and hard for making an examination of really brand new. You know, they say that cinema is the 7th art. Not true. It's got to go a long way before it becomes totally independent. You know, there's a way, a true art form has its own parameters and its own ideas and its own machinations. But the sad thing about cinema, it simply fucks with everything. And that is not really the definition, should we say, a profoundly organized art form with its own particular parameters. I mean, relative to the question here, I have no desire to give a cat 5 legs, but I want to make sure those 4 legs work extremely well. So my cats will be flying before long.
And an extra specific question also, you were speaking about Chernobyl, and we all knew Tutsi story. Is it some evidence or occasion that Tutsi will go to Chernobyl in the next episode?
Well, I think somebody told me, I think this gentleman here, it would take me at least 6 hours to get there. Is that true?
It's less than 2 hours.
I have to go back, unfortunately, to Amsterdam tomorrow to work on the next movie. I don't know, can you visit Chernobyl now?
Yeah.
Safe? You can. You have to carry a Geiger counter with you, do you?
I visited twice last years.
And you're still here.
As a physicist, I can tell you that the radiation here is almost the same as there. So if you are still alive, everything is
I was in Stockholm about 3 weeks ago, and they said the Chernobyl cloud is still hanging over Stockholm.
Ще 2-3 питання, тому що час збігає. І, будь ласка, по одному питанню задавайте. Добре? Кому?
You are a truly European artist, and you're the carrier of European tradition and sensitivity and everything. So this question is about your view on the future of the world in terms of what will happen with European tradition. For those of us who don't live in Europe, we see it diminishing everywhere else due to globalization, ease of movement, immigration, all these things. Just honestly, what do you think? What is the future?
Well, you're absolutely right. My education, I'm an Englishman. You know, God was an Englishman. So, and though I do and have traveled the world extensively, the ability for me to understand, should we say, Chinese history and philosophy and attitudes is not going to be simply because I'm not exposed to it as much as my interest in Europe. But I mean, certainly, you know, the great giants, should we take the three great giants of the European Renaissance would be Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and Raphael. They're big in Europe now, but I reckon you, in 2 generations' time, the Chinese will say, who the fuck is Michelangelo? There'll be a great, you know, sea change, and all our values and all our heroes, etc., will change and change and change. Mind you, I don't think we're going to be here in 12 years' time, are we? What's your feeling about that? The minutes are now ticking away, aren't we? There's a way we have ruined the planet, and the chances that we've tipped the balance so much now that we cannot possibly get back. And I think the general feeling is most scientists reckon we've only got 12 more years. So if you're urgent to do something, you've only got 12 more years to do it in. I mean, I think, you know, the incredible, crazy notions. I think, you know, this huge exploration that's now going all over the world to try and discover life somewhere else in the universe, that is a ridiculous thing to aim for. You know, and I'm sure maybe, I don't know whether moralistic systems exist all over the galaxies, but the moment we find another being that we can communicate with, the chances are that means we're superior to them. So that very, very rapidly they're going to disappear. The evidence of what we continually do on Earth is superior civilizations immediately kill off anything. Think of the Europeans in North America, for example. Think of all this huge amount of junk we're chucking into space. There's bound to be some microbes which are going to completely eradicate. And if it works the other way and they discover us, well, they're going to be superior to us, and that's the ending of us too. So I think it's the worst possible thing to do, to go on this stupid space exploration. But I am crying to the wind, because it's never going to stop. This great desire to eradicate ourselves seems to be part of our self-euthanasia. We are doomed to destroy ourselves. Is that too pessimistic? Have you still things to do in the next 10 years?
Thank you for your marvelous lecture. And I would like to ask you a question. Do you really believe that there is a possibility to cure that crucial illiteracy you mentioned in your lecture and in your films? 11 years ago, I've seen for the first time your picture on a big screen, and I was in the crowd, and one of my neighbors said, "Oh my, 2 hours? 5 hours would kill me." I want to punch him. But do you believe that there is any possibility to cure, to fix that problem you mentioned?
Well, first of all, do you think, would you agree with me, that the problem is worth fixing? You know, there's that axiom that unless you realize a thing is inadequate or broken, you're not going to do anything about it. So in a curious way, my call is a call to wake up, wake up, wake up. There are huge possibilities in every single person in this room, in association with the extraordinary tools that we have, to be able to create things which are more exciting, more amazing, more stimulating. And the whole history of Western culture, European culture, has proven that time and time and time and time again. We can see the potentiality, and now it's very much up to us, politically and socially and intellectually and emotionally and spiritually, to do something about it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Is your friend still alive?
He's not my friend.
Вже нема часу, тому thank you. Останній тоді.
Thank you, Mr. Grinoi. I have visual question. Cinema, it sounds fantastic. Do you think that a person like Bill Viola or William Kentridge also working for this direction and doing something? So, my question is, do you think that the installation visual moving image is also working for this new subject for you?
Well, you know, in the world at large, and I've always believed this is true, that all art is multi-denominational. The idea of a singular poet working in an attic all by himself, nonsense. We're all great communicators, and the idea of the, should we say, the immersive installation phenomenon has always been with us, always with us. I'm sure it's part of cave painting 45,000 years ago in southern France. There's nothing particularly new in that. It's like when I pronounce the word technology, somehow people think that technology is a very contemporary phenomenon. There's always been technology. It's just different sorts of vocabularies and different ways of using it. And also that very, very few people were able to associate themselves with technology once upon a time. But now it's everybody's. That's the great sort of notion which are related to the big current problems about democracy and about notions about immigration, about communication. We have to keep these things alive, because surely everybody, whatever your name is, even if your name is Donald Trump, the ultimate aim for the future of the world is for us all to come together to have ultimately one universal planetary system. And all those stupid people who are fighting against that all the time are doomed to fail. I'm looking you steadily in the eye, so it's your responsibility as well as mine. Yes.
Okay. I would like to refer to what you told earlier today about possibility to show present time, to show multiple screens. Does it sound like invitation to a control room of video surveillance, where you have thousands of cameras, you have tens of screens, everything is in present time, everything is distorted with lenses, wires, or whatever, and everything is alive. What's the difference between movie and what you can see there?
Why do you think that's a contemporary problem? Galileo probably asked the same question. Lucretius probably asked the same question. Sappho probably asked the same question. It's just relative to the particular time of information you're in. It's a very old-fashioned and somewhat irrelevant question, don't you think? I give the same reply. Human imagination is extraordinary and very largely unused. We now know how possible it is to be able to use that. It's now our responsibility to jump into that pond with a mighty splash, and that includes you too. Okay, thank you for your attention.